What would you say to a manager who asked you, why should I interest myself into all this? Why should this interest me? What has organization theory, organizational sociology to say to a manager?
Well, I think it has things. I definitely think it has things to say, and as I said before, I think young people, like MBA students, are not ready to hear what it has to say. I think people have had to have struggled and failed at dealing with managing organizational change, let's say, before they appreciate that they need a framework to try to understand what they're doing. But what we offer managers, I think, are frameworks for thinking through alternatives, alternative organizational designs or alternative organizational changes, not as prescriptions. I just don't think we're going to come up with prescriptions for exactly how to do it. I think that trivializes their problem, actually. But if we're good, what we ought to be able to do is come up with frameworks that would let them test possible designs against some kind of knowledge base. And so that's what when the business schools are doing well, I think that's what they're doing.
I think it's in organizational demography that you sort of have a few, you say, well, organizational ecology has brought up a series of counterintuitive results. Mm-hmm. Would you say that's the interesting part of what we can bring to managers, that we sort of tell them, hey, you think this is true? It's just like First Simon book, where he had these prescriptions, and he said, well, the opposite is true as well.
Yeah.
So is that what we're bringing them?
Well, so I think what we're doing with that is establishing credibility, because the first complaint would be that what we're telling them is common sense.
Yeah.
Right? That any reasonably intelligent person with experience could figure this out. Okay. So what Simon was doing, what we were trying to do, is to say, no, that's not true. Okay. These are harder problems than you might think, and in fact, people have thought hard about this and analyzed these things, and it doesn't always work out as simply as you think. And so what we're offering them, and what I tell when I teach on this issue, what I say, and I think lots of my colleagues say, is that the most dangerous situation for actors, including managers, is not knowing what they don't know. So when I see organizations get into really disastrous problems in change, for example, it's usually that they undertook something without understanding what its possible consequences were in the organization, because they just didn't know how things were connected in the organization. And so I mean, this is an argument that knowledge really matters. And so telling the message from managers is they have to become experts on their organization, on how their organization is put together, before they can even think about understanding whether this change is desirable or not. Right? So that's an argument about that they can't rely on consultants or whoever come in and spend a week, looking around the organization. Then they'll never get that information. That's their responsibility. Just like my sociology colleagues who teach human resources management argue that CEOs have to be the chief, people persons, or however we put it in these days, right? It's too important activity to be delegated to staff, right? Well, I think the same thing is true of understanding organization. So then we show them a series of ways to characterize an organization. You know, a series of here's various ways that you think about an organization. So one would be a network picture: who's tied to whom and in what kind of ways, and so forth.